Again, welcome everybody. We have here at the GCCM in America. We're going to talk about IoT, what's out there, and to keep you updated on the latest. What we're going to do quickly on the logistics, we have roughly a 45-minute session. Dwayne will, I'm honored to have Dewan, apologize, to do his keynote presentation from Verizon, who's also the sponsor of this session. So thank you for that very much. And then we'll see if you are awake enough to, to hit them with some really nasty questions. Really, exactly, the tough ones. And then we'll just quickly go, and we're gonna discuss, what's the latest in IoTs. Do we need to change some business models? How is it, working in the digital transformation we're all going through, and especially our clients, and how do we serve that in the most best possible way? All right. So with that, I'll shut up for now, and I'll give everybody a quick minute to introduce themselves. And if I may start with you, Gil, sure. Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Gil Santalese, CEO and founder of NGFX. NGFX is a carrier-neutral cable landing station, started in 2016. It was North America's first opportunity to have a cable landing station purposely built to support many different carriers. Today, we have 35 network operators, 4 subsea cables landing on campus. Campus is a combination of the original Tata cable landing station bought by Tyco, and NGFX is the new facility built in 2016. And between those two facilities, we have a lot of capacity between North America and South America interconnecting. Today, we're focusing on AI. AI is the next big challenge in terms of connectivity, because all the data that's being created with AI needs to get back out again to population centers. So we're developing 6 megawatt data halls for AI liquid cooling to be one of the first inference nodes, and I'm happy to share more about that when we get to the questions. But inference will be, I believe, how IoT gets to the next stage, not just telling you whether I'm on or off or I'm cold or hot, but actually having Internet of Things interacting with other Internet of Things and our population centers.
Okay, thank you. Good having you. Dewan?
Dewan Young, Vice President of Marketing for Verizon Partner Solutions, which is the global wholesale arm of Verizon. So we look at ways to leverage the various assets within Verizon for the benefit of our partners. So we grow both the top line revenue of our partners as well as Verizon.
Okay, thank you so much. Deborah?
Hi, I'm Deborah Sempier. I'm the CEO of Hawk Networks, and Hawk builds technology for telecom, including our Althea platform, which is what we're also known by. And Althea is a machine-to-machine microtransactional billing layer, which is quite a mouthful, but also how we are excited to talk about how that might intersect with IoT, and dynamic routing protocol that enables essentially this Legos or building blocks, more flexible ways to build, operate, and fund telecom networks. So we have a revenue share platform on the other side of that, along with a 5G core. So, and that's all kind of part of the Althea stack.
Okay, cool. Good having you. Angelo?
My name is Angelo Paiva. I work with Telecol. Telecol is a full MVNO in Brazil under the Vivo network, which is the best network in the country. Okay.
That's what they say, huh?
We also have our own underground network in Brazil. I'm the head of sales, global sales. The permanent roam is not allowed in Brazil, so we help companies to connect to their devices in the network in Brazil. Okay.
Thank you. Good having you, Marco.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marco Befente. I work for Tata Communications. Try to tell you what does Tata is. It's a long time. It's a long time here. We don't have that time, but I'm focused on supporting MNOs and MVNO to deploy and update their business. I mean, that is a mix of many different things, because many times it involves not only just IoT communications or just global connections or just FO but actually simple things as a simple SIM card. So we do many things, and we try to support our customers the best way we can in order to bring them to the next level of communications. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So we have a house full on this side. It's getting more fuller over that side as well. So thank you for that. And exactly. And without further ado, Duan, it's over to you.
All right, so I'm going to just give a couple of thoughts. And as I said, you don't have to wait till the end to ask questions. If you think of something, please, let's make this interactive. But just a few thoughts about where we're seeing the market from an IoT perspective, from Verizon's point of view, where things are going and the opportunities that we see that are coming about via IoT.
It's always the clicker. It's always the clicker.
It might be user error this time, so it's out.
Normally you're good at that, you know?
There we go. So
You see?
it's this one.
Thank you, Aurelia.
All right, so Gil touched on it, right? So we are at a unique time in our history as an industry, and from a global wholesale perspective, this is exciting because you have these transformational technologies that are all occurring at the same time. Whether you're talking about the proliferation of 5G, whether you talk about, and for us, there's panels and discussions that are occurring whether or not fixed wireless access was the first killer app on 5G or not, or if we've done fixed wireless access for the end of time. You have things like AI, inferencing and training large learning models, and what does that mean for our network? One of the things that we're seeing from an uptick on is the building of private wireless networks for built to use cases. Neutral hosts is something that's coming about. All of these technology trends and all of these things are evolving so rapidly, but at the core of all that, you still have IoT because the proliferation of devices continues to occur. So all of these things, in our opinion, are interlocked, and how we address that within the marketplace is going to be exciting for us to see. All right, so I mentioned that we sit within Verizon's global wholesale realm. So our partners, they have end users that they support every industry, every segment across the globe. So for us, whether they're looking at industrial or vehicle IoT, whether they're looking at wireless infrastructure or IoT at the edge, or just edge solutions, providing assets, providing solutions for them across those different technology focus areas is critical for us. And for Verizon Partner Solutions, what we do with our partners is really focus in 3 areas. What are the resources that we can provide from specialized sales in support of their channel to make sure that they have what they need in order to address their end users and their enterprise needs? Secondly, the development of the ecosystem, whether that be at the OEM level, the software level, the SIM level, all of that building out of the ecosystem. We use the ThingSpace platform as our connectivity and device management solution, making sure that connects via APIs and interoperability with our partners. That build out of the ecosystem as we look to drive IoT is a critical component. And then lastly, the commercialization of IoT is a critical piece as we look at that. The cost of devices have decreased. We've been in the IoT space for decades now, but we know that the device cost is coming down. What does that mean for models, network cost, and how do we build models to support our partners in order to make sure that they are able to capture the opportunity in front of them? So we talk about the support of end users, but for us it comes out to what are the business transformation outcomes that you're trying to bring forward? Whether that be bringing additional network quality, bringing down costs, more visibility, more the ability to see your network for where it is, or within businesses, how do you bring forward the additional transformation in order to bring forward outcomes? So for us, in support of our partners, it's really about how do we bring forward those using the technologies, whether that's private 5G, neutral hosts, public edge, or IoT, in order to bring forward the transformation that we know our partners are needing to bring forward. So regardless, I know everybody's seen these huge numbers that are out there, but we know that the proliferation, there's no shortage of the growth in IoT devices. OEMs are building devices today, manufacturing devices with SIM cards embedded in them more and more today.
And this is only US, right?
That is
correct?
the global number.
Global, okay.
Yeah, that's globally. So we know that the manufacturers are building SIMs and embedding them in the devices. So we know that the number of connected devices by 2028 are going to be exponentially higher. So 4.2 billion in IoT connections. And then there's this thing we talk about is the DNA of IoT. There's IoT, but there's the device, there's the network, and there's the application. So as we talk about the core, we talk about data centers and AI, all of those components will drive that 72 billion. But from a Verizon perspective, we play in the N of DNA, the network connectivity component. But that ecosystem is so critical as we work with our partners in order to make sure not only are we interoperable from other countries to connections to data centers, all of that comes into play. IoT is a much larger business than just providing the connectivity. It's the device, it's the network, it's the applications. And with the proliferation of IoT, AI and machine learning, that brings forward even more so opportunities to monetize in the IoT space. So for us, we talk about the Verizon specific assets. We have built out and spent a lot of money on spectrum, which brings us an opportunity to provide use cases, whether it be with millimeter wave and that dense high broadband opportunities, or think of the NFL cities and stadiums having so many devices at an NFL game at the same time. You need additional bandwidth. When you talk about that mid-band, that C-band, we continue to proliferate our C-band across the country. It will soon mirror what we see from an LTE perspective on the 4G side with C-band and mid-band, and that opportunity to provide things like fixed wireless access and IoT, and then low band. And then we are continuing to partner in the satellite space. So having complete coverage across the United States, across the globe with our partners and interoperability across there to leverage our investments in spectrum is critical for us. And then wherever you look, this slide is just a representation of all of the opportunities that we see in the IoT space. You can't go anywhere without seeing a device that can be, IoT and provide wireless solutions, to provide sensors, cameras throughout. So everywhere we look within the market, within the business space, is an opportunity to monetize IoT, whether that be in public safety, whether that be in intelligent lighting, manufacturing, crowd analytics. All of these are opportunities for us to monetize from an IoT perspective, and for us within global wholesale, working with our partners to ensure that they are prepared to monetize in these different use cases is critical for us.
The only thing I'm missing on that map is actually where's the bar, right?
I'm sure there's an app for that somewhere. So that's the last thing, infinite possibilities and partnering with us. So thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. An applause, right? There you go. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing as well as the Verizon vision of how it should be done, right? There you go. Any questions for Dwayne? Did you listen to my opening statement? Waking up and these kind of things?
I have one.
Please, thank you.
If you were to compare
Sorry.
per single connect, I think everybody can hear. If you were to compare per single connected mobile phone, from a Verizon perspective, how many IoT devices are you seeing in the network being brought up?
Exponentially higher. So we have 130 million. Oh, I'm sorry. It's exponentially higher. So I can't get into the specifics of our IoT connections, but it's a multitude higher. So we have 130 million subscribers, which is publicly known on the mobile devices. Mm-hmm. IoT is already exponentially higher.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a question, because I think in your third slide, you were mentioning, the 3 points which are important. The one was, let's say, the sales. So, and for me, because we can, let's say, put the architecture up, right? We can have the plan. We can have the business plan, or multiple business plans. How far do you think the end customer even if it's a fridge, because in IoT, even the fridge is an end customer, right? So how do you think it's perceived? So how do you, as Verizon, go out there and because we can think about everything, but they do not have that knowledge yet. So how do you think, and from a Verizon point of view, how do you address the market in that sense?
So for us, it starts with the outcomes, right? Because to your point, the devices are out there, but it really comes down to a return on invested capital, right? So if I'm going to deploy an IoT solution, if I'm going to deploy sensors, if I'm going to deploy a new software application in order to do that, I got to get a return on my investment. I have to get efficiencies. I have to show the partner and the end user that they're going to get those efficiencies and the outcomes that they need in order to transform their business. So for us within Verizon, we focus on outcomes and a customer-centric approach, because at the end of the day, technology is nice, but if you don't get something in return for it, there's really no value.
And a translation from, let's say, the solution, the services you have, make that, to translate that in the language for your customers. Do you see any, let's say, obstacles there? Is that difficult? Or what is the experience from your sales teams?
Yeah, so I will say there's two. I'll say briefly out of the realm of IoT. So IoT, I think most of us probably have a Ring device or have IoT in their home at some extent. So I think that decision to provide sensors or cameras is not as hard of a jump. But one of the things that we did see pushback was with fixed wireless access. So the use of wireless as a primary option for that last mile component took some education, took some use. And it's still a journey that we're on, right? As we look at the spectrum that's been available, as we proliferate C-band and they have higher broadband, fixed wireless access is something that our education of the customer of saying, hey, it's all right to have this connection over wireless is something that we continue to work through. Private wireless networks is another education that we're currently in the midst of, where you can have your own applications, have replace Wi-Fi, have public 5G and wireless networks. We're educating our partners on the use cases and the benefits of that. So I would say that it depends. I think with IoT, it was easier. FWA and private wireless networks, we're still on that journey.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? All righty, let's move in. All right, so you already showed, Dwayne, already something about the IoT landscape. So let's go to the others and let them give, let's say, an overview what they see it, and especially if I can start with you, Angelo, with telecom, especially in Brazil, because that's the Americas as well, right? And so what? Okay, thank you. So what is the current status of the global IoT, and then maybe as well you can put a little bit on the connectivity side as well.
Yeah. Us as telecom, we try to position ourselves as a one-stop shop for you to get the connectivity in Brazil. Okay, that's our main goal. Okay, we are an MVNA, whatever you want to call. We have right now close to 55 MVNOs under telecom. We see that possibility. We have like a different type of customers. Like we have some, how can I say, aggregators, okay, coming in, and they are in the chain. They already have the end customers on their side. We have, let's say, the car manufacturers that they come to Brazil as well. Some of them they go locally. Some of them they have like a central office in Europe or in Asia buying the entire connectivity for the world. So that's the scope that we see in Brazil right now, and it's from our perspective. I have been trying to sell into the international market for like 6 years, and I see, of course, US and Europe are way more advanced. Usually Brazil is, I don't know, I'll put here like 10 years behind, like US and Europe, and now Brazil is on the spot. I feel that the technology arrived. I mean,
let me tell you something, because for instance, the US and Europe, and I'm from Europe, we thought, we're far ahead. Go to Asia.
Yeah, I agree.
Go to Asia,
yeah.
Right? I mean, who's ahead? And what is actually the definition of being ahead? But, so catching up goes, especially because of the technology, super fast. You know, going from 3G, forget 4G, let's go to 5G, right? Asia, that happens. Gil, your thoughts? IoT landscape, what do you see around you? What's happening? What's the current situation from your perspective?
I think we have to buckle up. I think AI is if it's a clock, it's a 24-hour day, we're at about 3 a.m. These language models have been learning applications. As the applications become a little bit more mature, we're going to start getting them out to the public. So imagine cameras, right, that don't just sit on a police officer and tell the lieutenant what happened throughout the day. Imagine that camera is reading real time what's happening and reading body language and seeing the people in front of them and telling the officers a bad guy sitting in front of you. And there's a drone on its way because this is a really bad situation you're going to run into. And a squad car is coming. All of that is going to be interactive communications. It's not telling you whether I'm on or off or what just happened throughout the day. We're talking real-time analytics. When this becomes reality, IoT explodes. We've been stuck in this chapter of, is it on, is it off, is it cold, is it hot? No, what about communicating and making decisions? The relationship you shared is like 1 to 3 maybe of people to devices. When devices have intelligence because there's some node, and it's called inference, by the way, when that means when the language model is now learned and now it gets put into production and it starts interacting with population centers, the term is inference. IoT gets a boost out of inference, and the network connectivity of Verizon and everyone else here explodes. That's what's coming our way. I don't think we understand it. I don't think anyone's really talking about it yet, but just go down this path. Because the AI guys are moving quickly, and I think your industry, our industry, will explode when this all becomes reality.
Should we be afraid? Because listening to you for the last minute, it was like, who's gonna watch me? You know?
So look,
Tell me.
So privacy concerns, right? London has those issues. The camera's been there for many years.
Exactly.
And the question is, what can those cameras do? Until recently, not very much, right? All they did is just see you, and you were there. Congratulations. What if it actually interacts with you?
And I mean, now the cameras, you know, are static and quite dumb. But what if AI really kicks in? What then?
And I don't think it's not if, it's going to happen. You know, there are going to have to be laws and privacy concerns and who gets access to the data and good guys and bad guys separated out. But the reality is this application is too good to pass up. You just don't walk away because of a privacy issue. You're going to solve, you know, criminal issues. You're going to solve child abductions. You're going to solve training issues for police officers, right? How many police officers get in trouble and they only find out 2 days later? What if it said, look, calm down, your pulse is really high right now, the person in front of you has a mental disease, don't tackle them. Just relax for a moment, right? Someone is on its way to come help you. It can solve so many issues. It's a very powerful concept. You know, we as an industry are just going to be tools and infrastructure supporting this. It's going to be the AI guys going wild and the regulators trying to catch up because the regulators have to manage the privacy concerns and how this interacts with the public. But
And
I think everyone...
And 10,000 lawyers.
Yeah, the lawyers are going to make their money too.
Oh, hell yes.
But it's going to be an exciting time.
Okay, got a question here from Edwin. So Aurelia's just giving you the mic, and thank you for your question already, Edwin. Appreciate it.
I'm going to challenge the fact that it will explode.
We call him Mr. Curveball, you know?
Exactly. Because I don't believe in it. In the end, somebody has to pay for it. Otherwise, your business model will not succeed at all. Look at 5G worldwide. Look at IoT worldwide. It's not lifting off in the way we expected 6 years ago. And a lot of parties are struggling. Even a camera will not pay you. Who's paying you for the service you're offering with AI and all kinds of other tooling, including the IoT feature, in the end to make your business model profitable? Because there's a lot of infrastructure behind it, and there's nobody willing to pay for it. It's commodity. And that's the reality at this moment.
So break down the costs, right? What are the costs? I have to pay Verizon for the access to the network. I got to buy the cameras, and in terms of develop the AI application for me. There is money going in New York State right now towards applications like this. They're starting to invest. what'll happen is someone has to become successful. So New York State is a small town, and all of a sudden their crime rate goes down. They've got less issues with their training of officers, and you get another success story. It is tax dollars at work, but they have to come up with a plan to say, well, how much would we have spent in lawsuits and training issues versus spending it on infrastructure, right? And then when you find some sort of common ground, take the next application. What about health issues, right? You know, can I do a better job protecting my public from health crises, right? So you're gonna have to have wins along the way. Public funding will start, and they're gonna have to somehow quantify their success.
But now you're mentioning all the ifs and the whens and the buts and the hows.
Yeah.
Let's say it's not reality at this moment. Let's face the facts.
So I'll take a different take on it. So not to be contrary, I think the big thing is that the devices, to your point, two things had to occur. The cost of devices had to come down from where they were 6 years ago, and they have. Secondly, when you talk about IoT devices, there's a manufacturing process that has to occur where you had to build, and we're living it from our perspective today, where, you know, cars that come off the lot, you know, changing that manufacturing is 2 years in advance. So we're in that curve now with IoT, where the manufacturing is caught up. We've started to put increased, the embedding of SIMs into devices. The cost of the devices, the OEMs are bringing those costs down. So we see the proliferation and the uptick in IoT well behind where it was supposed to be forecasted because of those two factors. I think when we talk about AI and the proliferation of that, you're still seeing that with the GPUs and the cost of what it costs to do AI. But I think from a business perspective, when you can get, you know, do both the training models and the inference models at a cost for the business that makes sense, I think you'll see that. Right now, all of those costs have to come down. So I think to your point, the acceleration is when you bring the cost component down and it becomes more available. I think then you'll see the adoption occur at a more accelerated rate. But to your point, yes, we're well behind where we expected to be.
Look at the success of fixed wireless access. That is a success example, but there's also willingness who's going to pay for it at this moment. Because otherwise you cannot, let's say, disclose this rural areas with 5G opportunities, but you bring it with fixed wireless access. And let's say to the other point, what you see at this moment, and at least in Europe, it's becoming painfully visible. When Tesla is doing an emergency upgrade via the air, it ruins your network. And it happened multiple times at this moment. It's also happening now with Cubic, with, let's say, the manufacturer of all, and the controls of all the SIMs for the Audi, Volkswagen, and Bugatti, and all the famous brands. If they do an emergency upgrade via the air, it hurts the network. And even the 5G network is almost collapsing at that moment with the burst of data sent in a short period of time frame through the air.
Yeah. So I won't go to the Cubic example, but the other piece there is I do think there is an opportunity across the carriers to continue to push forward in those development areas. Yeah. When you talk about fixed wireless access, we were helped, and this is just us in the room talking, by two things. One, you know, the cost of TDM and access went up through the roof, so there was a need to move off of that. So it is pushed fixed wireless access forward. The second piece there was the overall, not only that, but SD-WAN and the software component of it, where broadband was good enough, you didn't have to have those services. So I think a lot of technology trends will drive other things forward. I think the same thing will happen with AI, and the same thing will happen with IoT. But we'll need something like SD-WAN or software in order to push things forward, but all of it plays together.
All right.
Yeah. I just would like to add a couple of points. I believe we, as part of the IoT ecosystem, we can be more resourceful. So we have infrastructure that is already deployed, which are the IoT devices, the connectivity, the 5G network, and so on. And we can extract more value out of this infrastructure. So we can be more creative. So for example, if we go back to the camera example, let's say the city buy the camera, implement the camera in a city for surveillance. However, that same camera could be used for smart parking, can be used for traffic monitoring, and so on. There are different applications that can generate value for the user, for the city, for the government, but those resources are not being very well worked. So we can, by extracting more value of the existing infrastructure and connectivity, I believe we can find the right numbers to make the ecosystem to prosper.
All right. Yes, please. Hold on. Aurelia, can you get...
I think it's good for us that we have this kind of problem. By the way, Daniel is our Vice President for Strategic Alliance, okay, with Telecom. Okay. But adding to that, I think it's a good idea and a good problem, okay, that maybe these problems are occurring because if you think about the MNOs, the networks, they are always being devalued. Yeah, and maybe the IoT market, which we know is not an easy, player to deal with, they are going to value the network. I don't know if we're going to be able to add a valued service maybe to Tesla to say, hey, for you to do the upgrade, maybe you have to pay higher. I don't know, so it's a good thing, and then we have to evolve. Yeah.
All right. Deborah, please. Maybe you want to react on this one, but also maybe your view, from your point of view, from your perspective, on the IoT. What are we facing? What's out there?
Yeah, I appreciate that indulgence. So I think we've heard kind of multiple perspectives, but I think we're missing a bit of the forest for the trees, in that to your point about who's going to pay for it, what's the driver of value. We're still capturing value from IoT in two primary ways: metering of bandwidth and services. In the future of a new machine economy and the different ways that these things are going to evolve and the inference, there's many different user behaviors that will happen and many different data points that we'll collect. There's a lot of different ways and values that we're going to derive from IoT that we haven't yet really figured out how to capture value. I always say you can't net 30 a smart trash can, but we're still sort of thinking about capturing value in that way, right? But I think this is the evolution. And the other big sort of missing piece here is the differentiator between a private and a public network. It's getting blurry. It's already getting blurry. It will get much blurrier in the future in terms of also our resources and being able to take advantage of those during those bursty periods or whatever else. And if we're going to blur the line between public and private connectivity, and we're going to have to find different ways of capturing value. And this is really where I think, the idea of sort of metering and then, sort of charging for services and then capturing that value has to be at the edge. We have to find ways for these machines to collect a user data or information or a behavior and then monetize across that. And perhaps even split that, let's say it's a 10-cent transaction, but maybe it needs to go to 10 different people and everybody gets a penny from that small behavior that's happening. And that's, I think, where we really need to evolve kind of our perspective. It's a perspective shift. And that's where the opportunity comes in too. And that's what's going to drive the payment, right? When we can get new models of capturing that EV income or charging income, or let's say that smart trash can. Maybe the city wants to incentivize people to recycle, right? And then they make some money from that recycling, and there's a small microtransaction. And those sorts of new models, that innovation is going to drive where the investment goes as well, too. And it will help, I think, on both the public and private connectivity side, as that starts to blur, everyone capture value in kind of equitable ways. So it's exciting, I think.
Okay, thank you. Marco, we haven't heard you yet, but Tata being a global player as well.
Yeah.
What do you see? What's your perspective?
Well, my perspective is that we're just starting. Going back to your point, very good point. Who's going to pay for it? Taxpayers. This is the fifth industrial revolution that we're living, like humanity. And in this one, like all the others before, taxpayers will pay for it. There was private lines when we put the trains in service in England, but whenever we wanted to implement it, taxpayers need to pay for it. In 1904, we have the first 4G coming out of the factory, but it wasn't until 1933 when we have the highway, explosion in the US. And it took us 30 years to cover this country. Back to the computers. Computers were invented before World War II, but wasn't until the governments started using them and start give them some applications when we start working on it. Mobile, my work, I started working on mobility, developing networks back in the 90s. I was site acquisition manager in Canary Islands. So, what's something new? We didn't know. But for 5 years, I was working that time at Vodafone Hotel. We thought we were going to crash because no one was going to pick up a phone. Suddenly, in 1999, explode. Why? Because you bring up new things, you bring up new solutions. IoT is barely the same thing. We don't see it yet. And we're killing the data centers because we're putting so much data in there that they need to grow and grow exponentially. We need to grow with our communications lines because we are receiving a lot of data.
Let me tell you, you have no other choice.
I agree.
You have no other choice.
I agree. And there is some governments that are already taking advantage of that information. I think we have a challenge, at least two challenges. Number one is privacy, which I'm very concerned, and morality. We're looking face-to-face to machines who doesn't have morality, and at least doesn't have any morality at all. Not good or bad, not something. They don't care. It's a binary decision, yes or no. And that could be great, and it could be very bad for us, because maybe our decisions could be different. But we all have this question about the Tesla. In case that I have to take a decision when I'm on the highway and I make a left and crash with the car, or make a right and crash with the bicycler, we are humans tend to do the best for the community. The Tesla did say, no, I'm going to crash with the bicycler. Why? I don't have any damage.
Save you.
Yeah, I'm going to save you. I don't have any damage and I can save you with that. If I tend to crash with this car, I might explode. So I will never do it. So that is the verge that we're living, but we're always in the verge. I've been all my life living on the limit of the verge.
I might remind everybody, a month, 2 months ago, when a signaling storm, let's say, disabled all the roaming US users.
I lived it.
to make a phone call.
I lived it.
And that was a signaling storm.
Yeah.
And all the MNOs in the US know that they had no backup, they were all impacted, and all the complaints were there. Let's say your example about the Tesla, if that is hurting a 5G network going down, what about the emergency services? Okay, Tesla is safe, but the emergency is not working. And these are the problems we are facing at this moment. The technology and what you described about the business models, fair. And let's say, together with the MNOs, we are absolutely looking at new ways of business opportunities as is.
Okay.
But the main reason why we're still on Earth is quality, preservation of our networks, and giving almost 100% reliability to the customers worldwide. And that's still, let's say, one of the drivers why we are on Earth. With this kind of margins and this kind of profitability and still generating cash, let's say, for our shareholders.
I agree, but the only thing that we're missing there is security. Is how am I going to back up my customers? Because the MNOs are at the end of the line. If something crashed there, everything crashed. So how we defend, how we manage to establish a network, a security network, that you can interconnect, or you can donate traffic, or you can do something in order to keep communications going. Mentioning Brazil. Brazil is, for me, is the most interesting countries in the Americas. They have so many different ways of communication, from LoRa Sigfox up to cellular satellite radio systems that you don't know how, but they work. And they are based on binary decisions. If I make a bit, you do this. If I don't make it, you don't do anything. So looking at Brazil, we need to find a way in order to have a backup into the higher level, bring security to the end user. Because we can talk about monetizing, but if the end user doesn't see it, no one sees it. No one's developed that. I mean, I don't need a fridge to connect. I hate to speak with my gas pump when it says, you choose unloaded fuel. I hate it. I mean, I have a separate network for all the IoT devices at home that for my kids, I don't know if they're going to turn crazy, but I keep imagining they can. So I believe those are the kind of security that me as user, as consumer can take. But as a MNO, I mean, we need to take a different layer of security. And we need to move this forward. And maybe that much of revenue that we have need to be ready to spend it in order to avoid an outage.
Yeah,
Okay. Please, the one.
a couple things there. So I think to Edwin and Deborah's point, I think the business model, if you look at the jump from 3G to 4G or 4G, there was trillions of dollars in market cap created on our networks, to the point where we had to build it for performance, we had to build it for redundancy, we had to build it for everything that you just stated. And the true value, the market capitalization occurred with the Ubers, the Facebooks, the applications that rode over, that would not have worked had we not made the investments that you were just talking about. So to your point around, is there a different way to look at the business model? Is there a different way to monetize? I think as an industry, we will continue to make the investments in the infrastructure to do everything that you said because of the public safety and because of all the reasons you just said, to create networks that people know and trust will work. But I think the conversation you're having about, honestly, I don't know the answer to the question of what the different business model is. But I think as we go to 5G and 6G and continue to evolve, we do have to look at ways to monetize in a different way in order to capture some of the market capitalization that we didn't see in the previous Gs.
There are different ways to monetize, but some of the big stakeholders, including the big MNOs, they're very reluctant to try. So, for example, let's say charge the usage of IoT not per device, but not per megabyte. How we can create a different business model where you can be remunerated for your investment, that at the same time we can calculate to the use case or application in the cloud and the user engagement, right? There are different models, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of stakeholder engagement in order to get a versatile.
All right. Deborah, please.
Could I just respond to that real quick? So I 100% agree, and I think what you just said was so salient. It takes a lot of different stakeholder engagement. And so really that pain point is coordinating the multi-stakeholder environment in order to capture these different business models. So it really has to be, how do we, make sure everyone is secure on the platform that's interacting and participating with it? How do we do that, neutral host or MOCN type of network or whatever that looks like, where there's multiple investors into that, how are they capturing their revenue and that revenue share back? And, this is, from the technology standpoint, this is what we really think a lot about. A lot of our, technology is, securely on a blockchain for encryption purposes and some privacy and things like that. But yeah, I think that's the salient point, is that in this new future, that the private networks will also have a play along with the public MNOs, and coordinating those different stakeholders is going to be the challenge and the fun.
Well, call that the challenge because Angelo.
Yeah, just said one situation in Brazil a few years ago when they started to develop CATAM. I just want to highlight that we are an industry, but we are, let's say, competitors. Like in each country, you have different, companies with different, they are driven by different people. And in Brazil, I saw a situation about CATAM where one of the networks, positioned themselves to provide, to build that network and to provide the services related to that. The other one said, no, I'm going to hold, and maybe in a few years I'll launch. And I think in one point, wrapping up what everyone said, I think the government will have to be in the middle, saying, hey guys, this is the rule, for AI, this is the rule for the IoT, someone will have to be the boss, to say, that's the rule.
You or the government?
I wish it could be me, but it's not going to be.
Okay.
I'd like to add a little bit. We're in the Americas conference, right? And we've got South America, Brazil, Mexico, US, and we're talking about infrastructure. And we're talking about countries and which ones will do better as technology evolves. I think about what Dwan said in terms of you need to have infrastructure available for your economy to do well. Someone said earlier that Brazil is caught up to cloud connectivity now and it's up to speed. But is Brazil ready for this next evolution of AI, which racks in a data center used to be 6 kW, 8 kW, 10 was a very good design, very impressive. I was in a meeting last week. My customer wants 125 kW in a rack with liquid cooled in 6 months, which means I have to turn around and tell my utility company, buckle up, I need another 7 megawatts in 6 months. I need transformers. That's all infrastructure. So who's going to pay for it? The guys that win. If you don't pay for it, you're not going to win. You're going to be the have-nots. There'll be some countries that'll do better than other countries with technology because they have the infrastructure to support it.
And it's up to us to come up with the applications and with the solutions and the services to make it happen as efficient as possible. On the other hand, on the Tesla, I have a fantastic solution. Buy combustion engine cars, guys. You know? So that's done, right? So you don't have any congestions on your network anymore, guys.
I can tell you. These cars also need a software update.
I know. But it took a little bit longer, than Tesla. So so the healthcare and everybody, they were not interfered. So combustion engine.
I went for the first time to Shanghai 2 months ago.
And they let you out?
Yeah, safely. But I was walking through the traffic and it was very silent, okay? And then a friend of mine said, look, all the cars here, all of them, they're electric. All of them. I could not find a gas station and I drove a lot. So someone found a solution, okay, in the world, for the updates that we were talking about. Because
I will not get rid of my cars.
no, it's good. But I was just thinking that
just bought the Maserati. Trust me, I will not.
No, I think it's a good point. But I think it's human beings, as you said, they evolve. Maybe it's going to take 30 years, for everything to be set of what you're talking about. I hope not. I hope we enjoy the wave. Okay, but that's it.
I mean, by the end of the fact, and we can laugh about it, what we need, and of course we were pushed, sort of, right? Yeah, investors are pushing us as well. Guys, you have the old models. What are you doing? Where's the margin? I'm happy to put my money into, and not like 2.5 years ago when they pulled out of tech, right? They're happy to put their money in again, right? So we need to come up with things. We need to come up with ideas, and with real solutions, which are there and which has a fast ROI, hopefully. And I mean, you tipped on it quickly a little bit, and also Edwin. You need to make not only the shareholders happy, but also by the end of the day, your end client. And I think IoT is there to, let me put it like this, to help us, but to help not us as a person, because by the end of the day, there's some person who is switching, doing something. But as long as we do it in a good way, and yes, I mean, I'm a lawyer myself, so trust me, we have loads of work to do here, and to make sure that the things go in a safe way to protect the people. Let's not forget this, because your margin is fine, but the people out there, they want to be protected and they want to feel protected. And again, IoT can help them with that, as you said, right? So coming a bit to the end of the session, guys, and I had prepared, and my panelists, they know, a zillion questions. We came to one, right? So I think we have more than enough to talk about. And we at the Carrier Community GCCM, we talk a lot about IoT because it never ends. And by the end of the day, it will never end. I'm almost 100 years in telco, and that was not funny, by the way. Thank you. But in another zillion years, we will still talk about it, right? It's only the start. I mean, you heard everybody. So it's really definitely something, not only on the connectivity side, on the API side, or whatever side. Watch it. It is already around us, especially on the AI. It is coming faster than light, faster than light. And I would like to give my fellow panelists a quick note for you as a, let's say, as a takeaway. And Deborah, if I can start with you, what should we look out for? Scoping the future, what is your glass ball prediction? Help us here.
One of the things I'd like to leave us with is, we talked a lot about, how these things might affect us, how humans are going to interact with machines. Because at the end of the day, it's not just machines, it's how humans interact with them. And so when we talk about privacy or we talk about how users interact with machines, it's really not, what does privacy even really mean? It really means choice. So maybe when we're thinking about these new business models, we're thinking about the end user solution. As we're thinking about this new economy of machines, we should really be thinking about what a user's choice is. How do they want to interact with the machines? How can we give them the dials and levers and perhaps monetize on that, value capture in new ways that really meets those solutions? But yeah, I would invite us when we're thinking about machines to not forget about the way humans interact with machines.
Thank you. Angelo?
Yeah, on my side, I would like to highlight a topic that we don't speak a lot, but since Brazil and Latam is on the spot right now, from my point of view, latency is it might be a big issue especially for
Hell yes.
Yes. So come to Telecom. You're going to provide the local IMCs in Latam. Okay.
Thank you. Marco?
Yeah, well, I think Deborah brought up a very good point here. I think that we need to interact with the persons and the people need to decide. When we get into a web page, they said, okay, we got cookies. When you get into it, you got something like 5 pages about disconnecting. And I think it should be the same way. I hate that I got an electric car and I got a combustion car, but both of them, they transmit real-time information to the manufacturer without my permission. I don't want them to transmit a thing, but they don't allow me to deactivate it. That was the first thing I wanted to do with my Nissan and my Mitsubishi. I want to disconnect it. Why? Because I know what they can do. And I don't want them to do it unless I have the right to say no. Maybe I want to say hi,
Control.
yes or no.
Control
or information. AI is going to help us a lot to make the information easier to manage and sell it. Why can't we sell the data? I want to be anonymous, but I don't want to, my data information get lost. I think that if I drive 50 miles a day with electric or with gas, why can't I send that information to someone who really is working on the future? I don't want to send that, hey, it's Marco Vicente and he's looking to go looking for a girlfriend. No, I don't want them to say that.
You're already sending it only
Right.
for free.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
And it's not propelling. Maybe I want to donate it to colleges. Maybe I want to donate it to, I don't know, Tesla, whatever. Allow me to do whatever I want with my information. Don't pull it from me. Because you keep it for you, and you know what? Most of them, they're not doing anything with it. They're just collecting data and making more data centers. We need to decongest that situation. We need to bring that data out and help them to do better things in the future.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Gil?
As I said earlier, we're at 3 a.m. in a 24-hour day. The little things that are already happening, right? You've got marketing people doing the job of 5 with one person who's very good at using apps. You've got lawyers that have productivity out the roof because all their documents get done in minutes versus days. The applications are coming. The big internet companies are buying 3 Mile Island, a nuclear power plant. Amazon bought a gigawatt power station in Pennsylvania. The investments are happening. The applications are coming. Stay in front of your customers. Pay attention to them because they're going to start asking you questions and get ready to be successful. It's not a matter of when, not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's going to come. Could there be a hiccup between now and that day? Absolutely. But it'll just be another day, a little bit later. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Famous last words, Dewan.
I would just say thank you. Great panel. I think the unique piece for me is that so many of you guys are our partners. So many friendly faces. So I just appreciated the discussion today. And great job.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank my fellow panelists. Thank you so much. They're here today and tomorrow, sort of. So if you want to know more, go and get them. And thank you for being very interactive. Thank you so much, staying awake. And I know that was a joke, guys. Thank you so much. And I think that in a minute we're going to talk about even more investments in data centers and everything which has to do with peering as well and landing stations, subsea cables. So guys, stay tuned with us. So thank you so much, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.